Hi everyone, I'm Clint of LSAT Unplugged. I'm one of the TAs and I lead a study group every Wednesday. We predominantly do logic games as well as logical reasoning and some reading comp. So I have the pleasure of interviewing Jannell Lundy Roberts. She is an Associate Dean for Enrollment Management at LMU Loyola Law School in Los Angeles, California. And she served as the Director of Admissions at the USC Gould School of Law before joining the staff at Loyola. Before moving into the admissions field, Dean Roberts worked in the Alumni Development Department at Southwestern Law School and at LMU. Dean Roberts has been a member of the Law School Admissions Council, LSAT Board of Trustees, Services and Programs Committee, Diversity Committee, and Investment Committee. She has also served as the chair of the pre-law admissions section for the American Association of Law Schools, AALS, and the chair of work groups for the Pacific Coast Association of Pre-Law Advisors. She's also a POSSE DAP volunteer, and we are privileged to have her at LSAT Unplugged. All right, so this is the first question is just, can you give us a little background as to what led you to the admissions department?
Absolutely. And so, as I've said, for people who have heard me speak, I have an incredible passion for higher education. I think the ability to attend an undergraduate institution, to earn a bachelor's degree, and then go on to graduate school is such an amazing opportunity. And as a first generation student, it was one that I valued. And although I didn't find myself initially in higher education as my first job, when I did get into it, it was one of the best experiences to be able to realize that I could have a career that was essentially helping others, serving students, working with students, being their advisors. Initially, when I started in admissions, we very much thought of the admissions profession as the gatekeepers. And some people still refer to it as that. And you think of someone standing at the gate, keeping people out. And I think I've kind of flipped that over on its head in my career, where I think of myself at the gate, ready to welcome people in, because it's such an incredibly important profession. The education is such an incredibly important endeavor, and one that's hard. It's really great to be a small part or a small piece of a prospective student's journey and kind of help them get to the place where they want to be. So it's a really wonderful profession to be in all these years.
Yeah, I have to say that honestly, a lot of admissions people I've met throughout my college experience as well has been quite very helpful and amazingly welcome. So I think that's definitely true for sure. And then just, I guess now pertaining more to your specific school in general, there's actually one of fellow students who's in the California area apply kind of to her. How does your law school regard multiple scores? So if someone took it one time, obviously perhaps got in the 140s, 150s, and then has gradually been working up to the 160s and 170s. I've been told and then also spoken with multiple students that have different perspectives on it or views. So I just wanted to see how your school regards, I guess, a multiple score applicants.
Right. So multiple scores are tough, right? Because you can have a really bad score and then a really great score, or two scores that are kind of similar, and that's probably more the norm. And what we really want to know is kind of what the story about that is. But the short answer is, at Loyola, if you have multiple scores, we will average. If those scores are very different, and generally the score band is more or less 3 points, then we welcome you to explain in an addendum. An addendum can be a way for you to tell us, hey, it was March 2020. There might have been something else going on in the world, like the COVID pandemic, that may have impacted my score. And so we want students to give us the context, whether it's an LSAT score, a bad quarter, a semester, as they kind of put together their application materials. Hopefully, what I would say for any prospective students who is at the beginning of their journey is that they're really thinking about taking the LSAT one time. And we've kind of gotten to a point, I think, in the admissions profession where people take it 2 and 3 times, and that seems standard. And I think that's too bad. I think we should be approaching the test not like we did the SAT or the ACT, just taking it, but really crafting a study plan that makes sense, crafting a study plan where you're assessing where you can do better, whether that means you're studying on your own or with a small group or with one of the many paid organizations that's out there. LSAC has partnered with Kaplan, not Kaplan, I'm sorry, with I'm blinking on the name, but has Khan Academy, Khan Academy, and the Khan Academy resources are phenomenal. And there are so many different ways you can study depending on the type of learner that you are, that ultimately what I hope we get back to is people taking the exam one time and doing their very best. But then of course you can take it again if you do happen to have an occurrence or an experience where you think that test score doesn't really reflect your best ability. So there is that option always.
Okay. And then I guess just centering off of the score itself, do you have any, I guess, or I guess does a well-written essay make up for a lower LSAT score if someone does only take it once and then does want to apply specifically to your law school? Does a well-written essay override kind of a lower LSAT score or no?
So I would say it's one of our, we lawyers say this a lot, it depends. I don't think it's completely a black or white answer. I think it's more in the gray. I have seen very well written, very well crafted personal statements really advance a prospective student's case because maybe their academic record isn't as good as it could be, or maybe their LSATs aren't as good as they could be. But that personal statement, that resume, those additional qualitative documents in their file really make us want to have that person in our class. And so I think it's worth putting the time and effort into. And I know sometimes this process can be very focused on the quantitatives. What's your median and what's your median LSAT, what's your median undergraduate GPA, and that's it. But I've seen the personal statement both elevate a candidate, and I've seen a personal statement also give us pause and like, this prospective student has great scores, but they didn't take the time and care to read the application instructions. It says, I've always wanted to go to, and the school name is not Loyola, and all the other missteps we see in the application process. So I definitely think that your personal statement can reflect your time, your intention, your great desire to attend law school, and that can really improve your case and your chances.
Okay, thank you for that. And I guess just going off of that, what does it take to stand out among other talented candidates? Obviously, everyone taking the LSAT or applying to law school is pretty talented in their own right. So what would you look for specifically, I guess, in a candidate itself?
I like to see in their application that they have been thoughtful about why law school. And there are some admissions, some of my colleagues say, well, I don't really need to know that. The application tells me that. For me, I want to see in their file that they have been thoughtful about law school. There's a lot of mythology around law school, whether we think about it, like Law and Order or Lincoln Lawyer, whatever the current law show is that's popular on TV right now. But the actual practice of being an attorney, of being an advocate is very different than sometimes we see, on TV or in social media. And so someone who has taken the time to think about why this is the right step for them and actually, articulates that in their personal statement, I think really stands out. I think passion stands out. If you're really passionate about something, it's hard for that not to be a compelling read. And I was meeting with a member of our pre-law honor society on LMU's campus. And unfortunately, she had someone read her personal statement and her application materials. Unfortunate part, they said, don't submit this, it's too passionate. And I thought, oh my goodness, what horrible advice. Be careful of the advice that you get from people, unless they're experts in the field. But I thought, it's actually the opposite of what I would say. If you're writing, it's because of something you're incredibly passionate about, then that will tend to read well and can really make you stand out, especially if that passion coincides with a really terrific program that we have, a really terrific concentration that we have, with a law professor we can see you working with all of the many opportunities that we have available at Loyola.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. And then just another one, I actually added this question because I was interested myself in it just because I was planning to do it. I guess it centers around kind of how early should an applicant consider preparing for admissions, and if you guys, I guess, for you specifically, for a prospective student thinking about when to apply, to wait or to apply a little later, earlier, if you are favorable for anyone contacting the admissions department just to get a kind of sense of your preference or guidance. I just didn't know.
Absolutely. So the pre-law society event that I did yesterday, there were freshmen in the room. You don't have to start that early. I think 3 to 6 months out is a really good time frame for most people because they have, probably had it in their head. They probably are taking classes that are rigorous. They probably done other things that are the work and the foundation of being a good prospective student. In terms of the process, it is a long process. And so taking the LSAT, thinking about your study plan, maybe that's more like a 6-month schedule, starting to visit schools, starting to take tours, starting to listen to blogs and podcasts and look at websites and see what information is out there so that when you are visiting, you're asking the questions that can't be found on the website or that can't be found in a podcast. So I think it will depend. The timeline can really vary. I am a big believer in starting early. If a person who was a junior said, hey, Dean Roberts, I'd love to speak with you about law school, I'm going to cheer that person on and do everything that I can to help them. For someone who is thinking about the process more immediately, applying for the next fall for fall 23, then I would say, the summer before, definitely by fall, you should be interacting with admissions professionals, going to grad fairs, attending LSAC's law school forums, going to your pre-law advisor or career counselor if that's available to you when you're still in undergrad. So early is better because it just will give you an opportunity to do all those things and be a better applicant. For us, our deadline is February 1st. But we see, 40% of our pool apply after January 20th. And I just, inner Jannell size, like, why are they waiting? What were they doing? Because it does become more competitive the later that you apply. I think most of us would say if you can have your application at least in, even if it's not complete by the end of the year, it puts you in the best position, not just for admissions, but also for scholarship as well.
Okay, well, thank you. That's very helpful. And then just in terms of that competitiveness, what are your thoughts on the current admissions cycle for, I guess, this upcoming fall cycle? I've read articles where it seems like this cycle might be less competitive or filled with applicants. And I've read other ones where it could be more competitive. So I just didn't know for your specific school or just in general, actually, what your
Right. No, that's a great question. If I knew the answer, I could probably sell it and retire. But what I would say based on what I know right now is I think it will be very similar to 21, actually. I think 2020 was a banner year, phenomenal in terms of volume. When you look at the LSAC national figures, the application volumes for most schools were up from 10 to 20%. Some schools significantly increased in class size because everybody accepted their offer. It was such a competitive landscape. I think 2021 was a correction of that really hyper kind of hot application market. And now I think we're probably most likely settling into what is a normal trend. So it would be great if our applicant pool is about the same as 2021. And that's what we're hoping for. That's what I'm hoping for. I think it's possible it might be a little bit lower, but I definitely think we've sort of passed the peak and are really sort of either flattening out or starting to see maybe smaller pools of applicants going forward.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, because I've heard multiple things about it's going to be very competitive again, or very, a lot of slots being filled. So I just wanted to see a general.
Yeah, no, it's a great question where it's really early. When you take into things like some people have big groups of deferred students that they're rolling over again, and some schools are shrinking their class sizes. Some schools are increasing their class sizes. There's so many different dynamics that are going on when you look at, individual regions or even individual schools. So it'll be really interesting. It'll be another interesting application cycle, I'm sure.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for that. And I guess just another question. A lot of fellow students have been already out of school per se, not right from college. Myself, I'm already about a year and a half, 2 years out of grad school. So I just wanted to ask, how does admissions view non-traditional students where I went to work So basically right out of the pandemic, I couldn't get work, and then I got a job, and then I wanted to save up for law school. So how do you view non-traditional students, I guess, with that, I guess, so-called like work gap kind of year or two?
Right. No, I love that question because I think it's assumed that the non-traditional student or the student who's been out is for whatever reason at a disadvantage. And I think it's actually the opposite. I think students, prospective students that have been away from academia, who have real life experience, who have professional experience, not only when they come to law school are they more sort of secure in their commitment and confidence that law school is the right choice for them because they've taken the time to kind of reaffirm, okay, yes, I really want to do this. I'm not just doing this because I don't know what else to do. But they have a lot more to say in their application because they can talk about their job. They can talk about, traveling and serving and being, working for a nonprofit or Teach for America or whatever it is. And so I would say we're seeing a lot more students who take a gap year or a gap season, and sometimes that's 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. And what ends up happening is their experiences in that time end up being such a great part of their application. It's a great read that I think that they really can take advantage that the experience has actually made them a better student or being ready to be a better student and a better professional when they're getting to the point that they're interviewing with judges and law firms and at nonprofits. So definitely something that I would encourage students with gap years to think about positively and really hopefully shine your light on that experience and how it's made you a better prospective student.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
very reassuring things to hear. So
Oh, good. I'm glad. I love non-traditional students, so I am a little bit biased.
okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
But anyway, just with, I guess, all these have been really helpful. And I just wanted to ask with obviously COVID and everything like that, and just the post-pandemic or mist of, I guess, the post-pandemic, has that changed the admissions process with being able to go into the offices and talk to someone? Has that changed your recommendation for applying earlier with a backlog or any kind of delays with obviously COVID affecting just kind of the processes in each step, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So COVID has changed everything, right? And it really forced us to rethink what we're doing and why we're doing it. And ultimately, we think about this part of the process being meeting students. And so at Loyola, we're really focused on going back to what we consider as normal. We don't know if the world will ever be normal again, but going back, visiting schools throughout the country, sending representatives to all of the major regional forums, doing events like I did, yesterday at LMU, going to pre-law honor societies, meeting with pre-law advisors. So that's absolutely terrific to get back to. At the same time, we learned that for the student who's thinking about Loyola, who is in the Bronx, may not be possible for them to come to our open house in November. So we still want to have virtual Zoom sessions where we're talking about a personal statement or doing a personal statement workshop, have hybrid sessions, and we have an upcoming event in January that's going to be hybrid that talks about scholarship and financial aid, because that's a huge area for prospective students. And we think that modality is going to allow us to reach the most prospective students. So I think COVID has changed how we think about what our reach is, what's possible, and how we can service students in a way that they want to meet us. Like, how can we kind of develop a schedule that meets the need of the person who wants to talk to us by phone, or the person who wants to talk to us by Zoom, or the person who wants to do a campus tour. And so in a really interesting way, I find that we're doing more, not less, because we've added what we've learned in the years that we were virtual to our in-person schedule. We've added hybrid opportunities to meet us. And so it feels like we're doing everything, which, just makes for a not dull day. But it also really feels like, it also allows us to feel like we're really reaching more students and not necessarily limited to the geography that we may have been limited to in the past. Like, we go to University of Michigan and we're only there one time. Now we have events where we can reach those students, throughout the applicant cycle. And that's really, really fantastic.
Okay, cool. And then I guess just with the new age with COVID and everything with Zoom informational interviews and such, what's your thoughts on that, or if that's part of the admissions process, I guess, at LMU?
So we don't have interviews at Loyola as part of the process generally, but we do make interviews available once we get to the waitlist season. And what I would say to any candidate is, for the schools that you're considering, Loyola and otherwise, if they are offering interviews, your response to that is yes, I will do this, because it can only help you. It can only advance your case. It can only allow you to advocate yourself, meet an admissions professional, and most likely it's going to be a professional who has a direct impact on the eventual evaluation of your file. So we had an application workshop today, and one of our admissions counselors was outside checking in people. And a student that she interviewed last summer came up and said, "Hi, Sam. Oh my goodness, it's great to see you. I remember when we interviewed, you're the best." And immediately they fell into a conversation about how the student was doing the first semester. And so it's only an opportunity that can help you. Many schools don't have interviews. It's just impossible for us to interview the entire applicant pool. But when they do, I strongly recommend that you do it as part of the application process, if that's what they're offering, or if they're offering informational interviews, then in some way, hopefully they're using that in the application process as well.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I know a lot of people have mentioned with the Zoom becoming more of the norm for in-person interviews, it can be tricky.
Yeah, it can be tricky. Yeah, so I would say, mind your Zoom etiquette. Don't, we've had people interview with their camera on. I know that's shocking. It's shocking even for me to say that, because it seems like such an elementary thing. If you're interviewing, you should have your camera on. But mind all the things that we've learned about Zoom etiquette, because all of those small things, it's sort of like not having a personal statement where you mention the wrong school name. All of those things, they really matter. Yeah.
Of course. Okay, cool. And then I just wanted to ask, actually, just because I've spoken to some people, a close friend as well, and personally for me too, is there any other factors that play a role in the acceptance and decision, specifically, like my personal essay specifically is on my father and how he went away to jail and how it kind of influenced me to go to law school. So I just wanted to ask if that plays, I guess if that plays a negative connotation to the candidate applying, if there's a past kind of, I guess, negative connotation to the applicant itself for what they
Right. So I'll say a couple of things about that. You definitely want your personal statement to be a document of strength. And I don't think necessarily talking about things in your past that are challenging or that were motivating is a bad thing, because it helped create who you are as a person, as a candidate, and also, was instrumental in your interest in law school. I think where students sort of sometimes fall into trouble is when that personal statement becomes a document of this excuse and this is why and woe is me and break out the smallest violin in the world and all of those things. So you don't want it to be that. So it's a really delicate balance. And we want to know all of the stories, all of the things that have contributed to making you you and making you the prospective student that we want to welcome to our community. So it's okay if some of that is, I've overcome this was a challenge, but you really want the focus to be on, I'm more motivated. I know how to persist. This is what I've learned. I have this as a passion. Because again, you're going to need all of those things, all of those learned lessons to get you through law school. So it's nice to read in a personal statement or in an application when a student has had that success. And I think the other thing that I want to say is, again, use the addendum statement as an opportunity to explain those other things if you think it's something that does require, maybe a weakness or something that does require more information so that we can put it into its proper context. So negative off the back isn't, automatically bad. Having a negative experience is kind of how you write about it, how you reflect about it, and how you live that experience to make you a better version of you, and how you use it to make you a better law student and hopefully an alum as well.
Okay, well, thank you for that. That's
Um,
helpful. And then I guess in general for law school with your specific school at Loyola, what's your favorite thing about the school or just I guess the entire law school process in itself?
Oh, well, I'm sure I don't have enough time to talk about all the things I love about Loyola, but I love the community here. And I had a choice, as any prospective student does, to figure out where where was my fit? Where could I walk on a campus and feel like that was a community that was invested in educating attorneys the way that I think they should be educated, but also in a community that was supportive, collegial, collaborative. We are only the law school campus. So although Loyola is, a unit of a fantastic research university, Loyola Marymount, that campus is gorgeous. One of the prettiest campuses I've ever been to. Of course, I'm biased. The law school campus is separate and in downtown Los Angeles, and there are so many things that we benefit from being our own community. So walking across campus, you feel like you know every student, faculty members know everyone. There's just a different sense of, because of its smallness, apart from the university, that you really get to feel on campus. So for me, being in a community that was committed to each other, that was supportive of each other, you probably, I know this sounds horrible, you probably can't swing a cat in too many legal arenas and not hit a Loyola alum. I love that we're everywhere. And that's a really important part of our community. And I love our students. They are from so many different walks of life. They're interested in so many really important legal issues, whether it be social justice or pro bono or advocacy for underserved communities, or being the real estate guru, at the white shoe big law firm downtown. I just love that diversity in our student body. I love that they go on to do really amazing things. And so all of that, for me, the community at Loyola is really extraordinary. And it's really a pleasure to be a part of.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for that. And then I promise just
Question. And I
Huh?
could go on, but I will stop there.
No, thank you. That was very helpful as
Yeah.
well for your school. And then I'm sorry, just for one last question, just the overall process with looking at an application. Do you look for, I know for myself, I'm kind of just getting overall my final letters of recommendations and everything of that nature. Do you prefer a certain amount of letter recommendations? Do you prefer, obviously with me being out of college, I'm more of having my letter recommendations come from obviously work, employers, my boss, my supervisor, other people in my walks of life versus not really having a lot of college recommendations. So I just wanted to ask your opinion on that as well.
No, that's a really important question, because if you've been away from school for a number of years, it's really hard sometimes to get a quality letter of a quality academic letter, and that's okay. We really are evaluating the substance of the letter based on the recommender's relationship with you, as opposed to this is a person who has a justice title because they are, that they're at a court, a higher level court. And so it sounds to me like you're doing the right thing and really evaluating. I've worked with this person over time. They know my skill set, they know my experience, they know my commitment. They're going to write me a good letter. Of course, if you're a senior and you're still in classes and you're K through JD, then our admissions committee is going to want to see an academic letter, because that is more closely related to who you are now and what type of student you would be at Loyola. But the further you are away, the more it makes sense to kind of broaden that reach and really think about who's going to give you a letter that's going to be supportive and be a plus to your file and not detract in any way.
Mhm. Okay, awesome. And then just, I think more will probably go to LSAT. If there's a way to reach you, if you can let Ivy know, I'm assuming you'll probably prefer that. Just email or the admissions kind of department best way to reach them.
Yes, absolutely. So to reach me, my email address is robertsj@lls.edu. And I'm also traveling around the country. So you're welcome to pop up at one of our events. All of our events are on our Visit Campus section of the website. And then we have several on-campus events that are coming up from now, probably through February. And again, myself, our really terrific JD admissions team, we're also available by phone or Zoom. Sometimes that's just a little bit easier given all of our busy schedules. So, we definitely encourage people to reach out, learn about us, visit campus. It's really hard because there's really no proxy for visiting campus. So hopefully that will become a part of people's exploration of Loyola. We love to meet prospective students, and we just look forward to helping people in this journey.
Well, thank you. Well, you guys sound very, very helpful, so I appreciate that. Any questions? Really, that's all I kind of highlighted the questions I wanted to ask and bring in some of the questions that I had, and other kind of fellow students on the LSAT Unplugged also have always been asking about. Any questions for me? Any other questions in general?
No, this has been great. We appreciate the opportunity to get information out there, and the people who listen to these podcasts, we find that they are better candidates, and so we definitely appreciate that. So we just thank the LSAT Unplugged community for providing this resource, and look forward to working with you guys in the future. So thank you, Clint.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you again, Dean Roberts. I appreciate it. I think that's it then. I kind of had all the questions I wanted to ask. I know you're busy, and I know it's Friday, so I will let you go. But thank you again for taking the time. This has been really helpful. And
my pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure. Have a great afternoon or evening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Yep. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.